When we added MDMA,
What will you do?
went up to 61%.
Hell yes.
But I saw a bird that morning.
You made the first blues in 200 years.
I have a problem. I'm an artist and an art education advocate, and I live in a city that has no art teachers in the elementary schools. I heard gasps. It's true. And this is a problem because creativity matters. And art teaches it so that we can maintain the creative skills we all had. See, we were all once creative geniuses. George Land, the general systems scientist, he developed a creativity test for NASA, and then he gave it to kindergartners. 98% of those kindergartners scored at the genius level in terms of divergent thinking skills. That's the ability to connect disparate ideas in your brain. 98%. That's everybody in this room. Wait, not everybody, because there's that 2% who didn't quite cut it. Well, then he kept testing them. At the age of 15, only 12% still had those genius-level creative thinking skills, and at the age of 24, it was down to 2%. Can you see why I have a problem? We need to be hanging on to our creativity, not losing it, because we're going to need it. Economically speaking, the arts account for 4.2% of the gross domestic product. That's $730 billion a year. But that's just the arts and culture. Creativity is everywhere. There's a creative mind behind every product we touch and every system we encounter. Medicine, transportation, your cell phone, paper clips. 78% of business leaders say creativity is of high importance when hiring, and Emily Workman of the Education Commission of the States cites that people with creative thinking skills developed through high-quality art education are better communicators, they're great collaborators, and they can adapt to and respect diverse ways of thinking. In these divided times, we need communities filled with adaptable and tolerant citizens more than ever. So this isn't just my problem, this is our problem. And art teaches it. Lois Hetland and Ellen Winter of the Harvard Graduate School of Education spent 2 years documenting, researching the skills taught in a high-quality art education classroom. They include observation and reflection, persistence, risk-taking, the idea that there can be multiple solutions to any given question, and envisioning. These are the tools in the creative thinker's toolbox. I have these skills. I'm trained as an artist. I teach art at Chemeketa Community College, and I use these skills throughout my life, not just for making things, but as a parent, a teacher, a citizen who votes, and as an art education advocate. And I want to share with you how I've been using my creative thinker's toolbox to try to solve our problem. So my son was entering the first grade when I found out there were no art teachers in Salem Kaiser elementary schools. I was horrified, but then I started asking questions. Were there ever any art teachers here? Yeah, they were pulled out 35 years ago. Is there any art being taught in any elementary schools? Yeah, some teachers feel comfortable enough with the subject matter to integrate it with their required curriculum. And some schools can afford to hire an artist to come in for a lesson over the course of the year. That's it. I was asking questions, I was researching. Kyung-hee Kim, the psychologist at William and Mary College, defines creativity as making something new or making something better. Well, you can't make something better until you know what already exists. So I was doing my observation and research, observation and reflection, through meetings and readings and phone calls and interviews. And one model seemed promising. It's called art literacy, and a few Oregon school districts teach it. A coordinator works for their district, writes the curriculum, and then trains volunteers. The volunteers then go out in pairs to teach the lessons. I decided I wanted to bring this to my son's school. So in the summer between my son's first grade and second grade years, myself and 2 other artists who also teach art on the college level and who have children in 2 other Salem Kaiser elementary schools, we got together and we wrote the curriculum, materials list, PowerPoint, and then in the fall, thankfully, enough parents came forward at each of our schools to help teach the lessons. And we've been doing this for 4 years now. You know it's coming, but it's only 3 lessons. We teach full-time, we can't do more than that. That's 3 one-hour art lessons per year per kid. And it's only 3 schools in a school district that has 42 elementary schools. We still have a problem. Now, I've had to do a lot of really uncomfortable things in this process. I've had to actually go into roomfuls of 4th graders and teach art. But the biggest risks came when I realized I had to raise public awareness. That's why I'm standing here going through this. See, kids in my son's elementary school will see me in the grocery store and they'll say, "Daddy, Daddy, look, there's my art teacher." And I'll say, "No, I am not your art teacher. I'm a volunteer." There are no art teachers. But it made me realize people just don't know. Because 90% of Americans believe art should be taught in elementary school, I think in Salem Kaiser they just assume it is being taught. So what did I do? I lobbied officials, I met with the superintendents, and I wrote an opinion piece for the local newspaper. I got nothing, no results. But as Linus Pauling, the dual Nobel Prize laureate, once said, to have a good idea, you've got to have a lot of ideas. So I got a little bit more creative. The creativity campaign came next. You might have seen these signs all over the convention center today. I can put one right here. Because creativity is everywhere, these signs can be too. They say creative minds created this. Teach kids art. My plan was to put them all over an intersection in downtown Salem, on the streetlights, on the lampposts, on the buildings, on the garbage cans. And then I asked permission and I didn't get it. But I still had all the signs. So the idea simply had to evolve. I attended a school board meeting and I tagged the room. I also developed this ongoing doors and windows campaign where I ask people to post the signs on the doors and windows of their homes, cars, or businesses. But I got even more solutions when I reframed the question. Tina Seelig at Stanford's D School teaches this method. So I had been focusing on how do we get the art teachers back in the elementary schools? And I reframed it to be, how can we get art to kids in elementary schools? Or how can we teach creativity creatively? Time. I focused on time because principals had told me time was the reason why. They don't have time to teach art in elementary school. That was my angry art advocate voice coming out just then. Did you hear that? So what if we use lunchtime? While kids eat lunch, they're watching a video of an artist, an art concept, and a demonstration. They bring their trays back. They pick up a brown bag filled with art supplies. During the next week, they make the project either at home or in their classroom, and then bring it back for the next week's art lunch to see what was made, analyze, and discuss. Or what if we integrate art in a new way? Teachers across the country, they integrate art with science and literature. What about PE? We could combine movement-based learning with performance art techniques, not unlike improv theater techniques. Or we could use traditional art-making practices that are much more physical. Think Jackson Pollock strip paintings, right? or how Paul Klee once described drawing as taking a line for a walk. Students can take lines for walks all the way around their gym. This is envisioning, these ideas for implementation. Envisioning is holding something in your mind's eye to try it out, to shape it. I read somewhere once that a person has to be able to dream up or envision a better world before they can commit to making that change. This is the point where I say, I haven't been successful in making that change. There are still no art teachers in Salem-Keizer elementary schools. But I have shown you how I'm using my tools, the creative person's toolbox, observation and reflection, persistence, risk-taking, multiple solutions, and envisioning to try to solve this problem. But there's one other secret ingredient to making any creative idea real, and that's collaboration. Working with others has pushed me beyond what I could possibly do or envision on my own. And collaboration is going to be the key to those communities I described earlier. Our community, filled with tolerant and adaptable citizens, creative thinkers who are willing to work together to find solutions to any problem. And this is where you come in. I want you to leave here today thinking about the generations coming up and their creative minds. If we teach art from kindergarten, our community will be more creative. It's that simple. So instead of allowing creative skills to dwindle through our educational years, you are going to demand art in every school and vote with this in mind. But this future utopian community, it's not a future utopia. We can all dip into our creative thinkers' toolbox now and become more creative as parents, as professionals, as citizens. After all, we were all once creative geniuses, and we can all be them again. Thank you.